Don't look at him like that. His fingers are cold where they cage my wrist against the marble balcony. Rings biting into my skin. Below us, the orchestra swells. Polite laughter, crystal glasses. The heroine's bright voice sang the name that was supposed to be mine. You're trembling, he murmurs. Too close. The Empire's most feared heir, breath steady. Eyes darker than the night swallowing the garden. Is it jealousy? The script says I should be downstairs, smiling gently, swallowing heartbreak like medicine. The script says I lose beautifully. Instead, I lean in until my mouth nearly brushes his ear. I don't want him. His grip tightens, almost imperceptible, almost desperate. A pause, a fracture in fate. Then, he asks softly, as if it costs him blood. Why are you looking at me like I'm the one who will leave? Welcome to BL Without Labels, where the story isn't defined by words. Stay with the story. Support us. Chapter 1, in which I complain loudly and the universe takes it personally. My name is Aaron Vale, 24, professional overthinker, amateur critic of fictional men with no self-respect. And this is the story of how I died. Not heroically, not tragically, annoyingly. Why does he even like her? I groaned, sprawled across my bed, phone glowing inches from my face. She doesn't even remember his birthday. From the other side of the room, my sister Mira Vale snorted. Because he's the second male lead. That's his job. That's not a job, that's emotional slavery. I shoved the paperback at her. Crimson Vows of the Silver Empire. A best-selling romance novel with questionable life choices and even worse romantic decisions. She didn't look up from her laptop. You're too invested. I am invested. Justice for Leonhardt Everwin. Ah yes, Leonhardt Everwin. The gentle, painfully loyal second male lead. Crown prince of soft smiles and quiet sacrifices. The human embodiment of I'll support you from the shadows while you fall in love with someone else. The heroine, Alara Windmere. Sunlight in human form. Kind, strong. Oblivious to the emotional wreckage trailing behind her. The main male lead, Crown Prince Cashin Valmont. Powerful, perfect, predictably chosen. And then, there was the villain, Duke Lucien Darce. Cold eyes, sharper tongue, reputation soaked in scandal. Raised in a loveless household, betrayed by half the court, destined to fall in the final arc. Either dead or exiled, depending on which edition you bought. Mira rolled her chair back and finally looked at me. You just like the villain. I do not just like the villain, I said with dignity. I have depth. She stared. Fine, I like him. But listen, if Leonhardt had any spine, he'd stop chasing Alara and look at Lucien instead. The man clearly needs therapy and possibly a hug. That's not how the story works. I pointed dramatically at the ceiling. If I were Leonhardt, I'd love the villain instead of the heroine. Silence. Mira slowly closed her laptop. Don't tempt fate. I laughed. The lights flickered. I did not laugh. Did you see? The world tilted. Not metaphorically. Physically. The ceiling dissolved into blinding white. The sound of Myra's voice stretching thin like tape pulled too far. My last coherent thought was deeply offended. Oh, come on. I was ranting. When I opened my eyes, I was not in my bedroom. Silk curtains. Gold embroidery. A chandelier large enough to bankrupt a small nation. And hands. Not my hands. Longer fingers. Slimmer. A faint sword callus near the thumb. I sat up too fast. A mirror stood across the room. In it, staring back at me, soft blonde hair, gentle green eyes, a face that looked like it apologized to furniture after bumping into it. I knew that face. I had memorized that face. No, I whispered. A knock sounded at the door. Your Highness? A servant called. Lady Alara has arrived. Your Highness, Lady Alara. I lunged for the mirror again, heart slamming. Against ribs that did not feel like mine. Leonhardt, I breathed. I had transmigrated. Into the novel. Into the second male lead. The one destined to love, lose, and smile about it. For a full 30 seconds, I simply stared at myself. Then I groaned and flopped back onto the absurdly expensive bed. This is what I get for having opinions. A second knock. Your Highness. Right. Timeline check. Early arc Leonhardt is already hopelessly devoted to Alara. The slow, painful descent into unrequited affection has begun. I swung my legs off the bed, pulse steadying. The script says, Leonhardt sees Alara. Leonhardt smiles gently. Leonhardt continues loving her while she falls for Cashin. Leonhardt loses. I looked at my reflection one more time. Absolutely not. Because if I was going to be Leonhardt ever win, I wasn't wasting my life on someone who wouldn't look back. And somewhere in this palace, a certain villain was waiting to be misunderstood. Chapter 2. In which I prove I am absolutely not the gentle type. If you think I woke up in Leonhardt Everwin's body and decided to remain a saint, you've misunderstood me completely. The original Leonhardt loved quietly, endured quietly, bled quietly. I do not. And if the universe handed me his heartbreak wrapped in silk and tragedy, then I reserve the right to rearrange the script. No more worshipping a heroine who never once looked back. No more smiling through humiliation. And certainly no more letting the villain walk toward ruin simply because the narrative demanded it. If anything, I plan to ruin things first. The first time I see him, it's in the West Courtyard. Duke Lucien Darce stands beneath a dying camellia tree, black coat immaculate, silver hair catching the late afternoon light like a blade drawn halfway from its sheath. In the original story, this is where Leonhardt confronts him, accuses him of manipulating trade routes, threatens him with political consequences. They clash. Pride against pride. Hero against villain. So naturally, I walk straight up to him and smile. Not the soft, dignified prince smile. The slow one. The deliberate one. His red eyes flick toward me, unimpressed. Your Highness. Cold. Polite. Dismissive. In the book, this is where Leonhardt bristles. Instead, I take one more step into his space. Lucien, I say lightly, ignoring the way two nearby knights stiffen at the informality. You look particularly devastating today. Are you trying to start rumors? The silence that follows is exquisite. He studies me as though I've just spoken in a foreign language. Have you taken ill? He asks flatly. No, but I may, if you keep looking at me like that. One of the knights chokes. Lucien's eyes narrow. This is new. Good. In the original, they fight because Leonhardt believes Lucien is dangerous. I know he is. I also know he's lonely. And people like him don't know what to do with kindness, let alone shameless interest. He turns slightly, as if to leave. Catch his sleeve. Not hard. Just enough. The air changes instantly. His gaze drops to where my fingers rest against the dark fabric. Careful, he says softly. No heat. No embarrassment. Just warning. People will misunderstand. That's the point. There it is. A flicker. Not attraction. Not yet. But awareness. In the novel, Lucien despises Leonhardt because the prince embodies everything he was denied. Love, legitimacy, warmth. Now I'm standing here, invading his personal space, looking at him like he's something worth choosing. It destabilizes him. He grips my wrist, firm, controlled, painfully precise, a reminder of the power imbalance. He could crush bone if he wanted. His voice drops lower. This game will not end well for you. I lean closer instead. Who said I'm playing? For a second, just one, his composure fractures. His thumb presses slightly harder against my pulse, as if checking whether I'm real. Then he releases me. Do not test me again, Your Highness. Punishment in his tone. Distance restored. Dismissal sharp as a blade. He walks away without looking back. In the novel, Leonhardt would be furious. I grin, because he didn't ignore me, and more importantly, he didn't understand me. As for the heroine, Alara greets me later with that warm, radiant smile the entire empire adores. Leonhardt, you seem different today. I tilt my head. Different? Yes. In the original story, I orbit her like a devoted star. Now, I let my attention drift past her shoulder, to the distant balcony where a certain duke watches the garden from the shadows. I suppose I am, I reply softly. For a fraction of a second, confusion flickers across her face. Good. I don't plan to destroy her, but I will dismantle the certainty that she is the center of my world. Let her feel the absence. Let her notice the shift. Let the story tremble. That evening, I receive a message from Duke Lucien Darce. A single line. If you insist on behaving improperly, Your Highness, do it somewhere private. No signature. No flourish. I stare at the paper, pulse quickening. He thinks this is about impropriety. He thinks this is a reckless prince playing with fire. He doesn't realize I am choosing him, and people who have never been chosen before don't know how to survive it. Chapter 3, in which I discover I have no survival instincts. He thought it was a game. I could see it in the way he leaned against the study window, arms folded, expression faintly amused, as if indulging a bored prince with too much time and too little discipline. Candlelight carved sharp lines along Duke Lucien Darce's cheekbones. The room smelled of ink, smoke, and something colder, like winter just before snow. You enjoy provoking me, he said quietly. It wasn't a question. I stood near the velvet couch, heart beating faster than I wanted to admit. You enjoy reacting. A slow blink. Predatory. He stepped closer. Not rushed. Not flustered. Controlled. Your Highness, he murmured. You mistake. Tolerance for interest. There it was again, that distance. That certainty that this would end the way everything does for him. With abandonment, something inside me snapped. Maybe it was anger for the original Leonhardt. Maybe it was frustration at the script still trying to push us into rivalry. Maybe it was the way Lucien looked at me like I would eventually choose someone else. Before I could think, I grabbed his collar, pulled, harder than intended. He stumbled back a single step, hitting the edge of the couch. And I kissed him. It wasn't graceful. It wasn't planned. It was heat and nerve and the sharp taste of shock. For one impossible second, he froze. Then his hand came up, fingers gripping my jaw, firm enough to remind me exactly who held power here. He kissed back, harder, not gentle, not hesitant. Felt like challenge, like punishment. My knees buckled. The back of my legs hit the couch and I fell, breath knocked from my lungs. His weight braced over me without fully crushing. The world narrowed to the space between our mouths, to the rough drag of his thumb along my cheek, to the dangerous quiet in his breathing. When he pulled back, his eyes were darker than I had ever seen them. Do you have any idea, he said softly, what you are inviting? My pulse hammered. My lips tingled. My brain finally caught up with what I had just done. I had just kissed the Empire's most dangerous man. Without permission. Without strategy. Without dignity. And yet, I didn't regret it. I told you, I said, voice unsteady but stubborn. This time I'm not leaving you alone. His grip tightened slightly. In this life, I continued reckless and breathless. You're mine, Duke. So be ready. The words echoed in the space between us. Mine. Possessive. Terrifying. For both of us. He searched my face like he was looking for the punchline. For proof that this was manipulation. A ploy. A temporary rebellion before I returned to the heroine's orbit. I didn't look away. For the first time, he did. And that was when I realized something far more shocking than the kiss itself. He wasn't afraid of desire. He was afraid of being chosen. His hand slid from my jaw. Careful, Your Highness, he whispered. But his voice no longer sounded certain. And neither did fate. Chapter 4, in which the hero becomes the threat. The palace corridor falls silent when Crown Prince Cassian Valmont steps into view. In the novel, this is where he shines. Golden hair, immaculate posture, the embodiment of righteousness. The man Alara is destined to love. Tonight, he looks at me like I've stolen something. Leonhardt, he says, voice smooth but sharpened at the edges. You've been difficult to find lately. Lucien stands beside me, expression neutral, though I feel the tension in him like a drawn bowstring. In the original story, I would step forward to defend Elara's honor, to challenge Lucien's schemes. Instead, I remain exactly where I am, close enough that my sleeve brushes Lucien's glove. Cassion's gaze drops to the proximity. Ah, there it is. Jealousy does not suit heroes. I've been busy, I reply lightly. With him, Cassion asks. Lucien gives a faint, almost bored smile. Is that an accusation, Your Highness? The temperature drops several degrees. The hero, who was meant to be steady and kind, takes a step closer. Toward me, not Lucien. Be careful who you associate with, Cassion says. Some men ruin everything they touch. Lucien doesn't react outwardly, but I see it, the microtension in his jaw, the expectation of agreement, of eventual abandonment, the script trying to reassert itself. I tilt my head and smile sweetly at Cassion. Strange, I say. I was just thinking the same thing. Cassion's expression hardens. Lucien's eyes flick toward me. Confusion, calculation, possibly regret. Cassion lowers his voice. You are acting unlike yourself. That's the point, I answer. He studies me like I'm a problem to be solved. A narrative glitch. You will regret this, Cassion says finally, gaze cutting to Lucien. When this ends badly. And there it is, the hero threatening like a villain. He turns sharply and leaves. The corridor feels heavier after he's gone. Lucien exhales slowly. You provoke dangerous men far too easily. I thought you liked dangerous. His gaze shifts to me fully now. There's no audience. No political masks. Just us. You are treating this like entertainment, he says quietly. I step closer. No, I murmur. If this were entertainment, I'd be bored already. His eyes darken slightly. I let my gaze drag, deliberately, over his posture, the cut of his coat, the tension in his shoulders. You're very tense tonight, Duke. A pause. His jaw tightens. Is that your latest tactic? He asks coolly. I lean in, voice dropping just enough to be inappropriate without crossing into vulgar. If you keep clenching like that, people might assume I've been doing something scandalous to you. Silence. The air snaps. His fingers close around my wrist in one smooth motion. Not violent, but unmistakably possessive. You enjoy testing limits, he says. I smile. Only yours. His thumb presses lightly against the inside of my wrist, where my pulse betrays me. You are aware, he replies, voice lowering a fraction, that if I decided to stop being patient, you would be the first to lose control. Heat rises to my face despite myself. He noticed. Of course he noticed. I swallow but refuse to retreat. Then stop being patient. A beat. A long one. His eyes search mine, not for mockery this time, for sincerity. For signs that I'll eventually run back to the heroine. That I'm experimenting before returning to safety. When he finds none, something shifts. He releases my wrist slowly. You are reckless, he says. And you're afraid. I answer softly. He doesn't deny it, because he is. Not of Cassion, not of scandal, but of wanting someone who might choose him, and meaning it. He steps back just enough to restore distance, but his voice, when he speaks again, carries the faintest edge of dark humor. Very well, Your Highness, he murmurs. Continue your double meanings. His gaze drifts briefly to my lips. Just don't be surprised when I start answering them properly. And for the first time, I'm not entirely sure I'm the one in control anymore. Chapter 5, in which the story refuses to lose me. I wanted to be ignored. That was the plan. Shift the script. Step out of orbit. Let the heroine drift toward her destined crown prince while I quietly rewrite fate with the villain. Instead, they are both staring at me like I'm the one who changed the weather. Elara finds me first. In the Rose Pavilion. Of course it's the Rose Pavilion. The original novel loved symbolic locations. Leon Hart? She calls softly. I turn. Her smile wavers when she meets my eyes. You've been distant. There's something unfamiliar beneath her warmth. Not affection, concern, possessiveness. I've been busy, I reply. With the Duke? She asks too quickly. There it is. In the novel, she never noticed Leonhardt's absence. Never questioned it. He was simply there. Now that I've stepped away, she feels it. I don't recall reporting my schedule, I say gently. Her fingers tighten around the ribbon in her hands. He's dangerous. So is everyone who isn't predictable. That lands harder than intended. Her gaze sharpens. You used to dislike him. I smile faintly. People evolve. Her expression flickers. Hurt? Jealousy? I can't quite name it. Before she can respond, a shadow falls across the marble. Cashin. He doesn't greet her first. He looks at me. Leonhardt, he says, voice calm in the way storms are calm before they break. We need to speak. Alara glances between us, tension thickening. The hero and heroine, united, over me. This is new. In the original plot, they circled each other with longing while I supported from the sidelines. Now they stand shoulder to shoulder, like I'm the one destabilizing their story. Cashin steps closer. Too close. You've changed, he says quietly. You're allowing yourself to be influenced. Influenced, I echo. By the Duke. There's accusation in it. Possessive accusation. As if I'm something that can be claimed. My pulse spikes not from fear, from irritation. You're both very concerned, I murmur. It's flattering. Alara's jaw tightens. Cashin's gaze hardens. You are not thinking clearly, Cashin says. And there it is. The implication. I'm not myself. I'm being led astray. I let out a soft laugh. I've never been clearer. Behind them, footsteps, measured, unhurried. Lucien. He doesn't interrupt. Doesn't announce himself. He simply stops a few paces away. Watching. Observing. The tension in the air shifts instantly. Cashin straightens. Alara stiffens. And I move. One step. Then another. Closing the distance between me and Lucien deliberately. The accusation is practically written across Cashin's face now. You see, he says coldly. He's distracting you. Distracting me. As if I'm a child. As if I don't know exactly what I'm doing. Lucien's expression remains composed, but I feel the subtle restraint in him. The way he refuses to reach for me in front of them. Always careful. Always braced for loss. I do not require defense, Lucien says coolly. I'm not defending you, I reply lightly. I step even closer. Close enough that our shoulders nearly touch. I'm choosing. Silence detonates. Cashin's hand curls at his side. Alara inhales sharply. Lucien's eyes shift to me. Not triumphant. Not smug. Uneasy. Because this is public. Irreversible. Leonhardt, Cashin says, voice darkening. Step away. No. The word leaves me steady. I glance sideways at Lucien. Apparently, I say softly, I'm out of control. His jaw tightens. He lowers his voice so only I can hear. You are escalating this. Good. My heart is pounding now. Not from rebellion. From proximity. From the way every nerve seems aware of him. I don't need to be saved. I say louder now. And I don't need permission. Cashin's composure fractures first. This is foolishness, he snaps. Alara's voice trembles. Leonhardt, please. There it is. Now they want me. Now that I'm walking away. Lucien exhales slowly beside me. You are provoking them, he murmurs. I tilt my head toward him. And you? A beat. His eyes darken, not anger. Something heavier. You are provoking me, he says. The courtyard feels like a battlefield. The hero glaring. The heroine shaken. The villain tense. And me, standing exactly where I want to be. For the first time since I woke in this world. The story isn't moving me. I'm moving it. And judging by the way Lucien's hand finally, almost reluctantly, hovers at the small of my back, I'm not the only one losing control. Chapter 6. In which the villain stops running. The rumors begin the next morning. They move faster than cavalry. The crown prince furious. Lady Alara withdrawn. The Duke seen too often at my side. And me, unapologetic. The court watches like spectators at an execution. They expect regret, retraction, a return to the predictable triangle. Instead, I request Lucien's presence in the Eastern Library. Alone. He arrives precisely on time. Of course he does. The door shuts behind him with a quiet click that sounds far too intimate. "You enjoy setting fires," he says without greeting. I'm seated on the long velvet chaise near the tall windows, sunlight cutting across the floor between us. "I enjoy honesty," I reply. His gaze sharpens. "This is not honesty. This is defiance." "Same difference." He exhales through his nose, patience thinning. "You are destabilizing your position," he says. "The court already whispers that I've influenced you." I stand slowly. "Have you?" A beat. "No." "Then what are you afraid of?" The question lingers. He doesn't answer immediately, because we both know the truth. He isn't afraid of political fallout. He's afraid of attachment. I close the distance between us. Not reckless this time. Measured. "You think I'll get bored," I say quietly. "That I'll return to them when this becomes inconvenient." His jaw tightens. Silence is confession. "I've watched this story," I continue softly. "I know how it was supposed to end." "And how is that?" he asks, voice dangerously calm. "You alone." Something flickers in his eyes. Gone in an instant. "You speak as if fate is negotiable." "It is." I stop in front of him, close enough that I feel the faint warmth radiating through his coat. "You expect abandonment," I say. "So you prepare for it. You stay cold, detached, unreachable." His hand lifts suddenly, not to grab, to steady, fingers brushing my waist as if testing whether I'll flinch. I don't. "You are arrogant," he murmurs. "Probably. You assume you can rewrite what I am." "I don't want to rewrite you." That makes him look at me properly. "I want you exactly as you are." The air shifts. No teasing. No double meanings. Just truth. His composure cracks, not visibly but internally. I feel it in the way his grip firms, no longer hovering. "You don't understand what that costs," he says quietly. "Then teach me." For a long moment, neither of us moves. Then, he steps closer. Not overpowering. Not punishing. Intentional. "If you stay," he says, voice low, "you stay knowing I will not be gentle. I'm not asking you to be." His thumb brushes along my jaw, not possessive this time. Searching. "And if they turn against you?" he asks. "They already have." A pause. Then softer. "And if I do?" There it is. The real fear. Not that I'll leave. That he'll hurt me first. I swallow. "If you push me away," I say quietly, "I'll push back." Silence. Then, a breath against my temple. Not quite a kiss. Not yet. "You are exhausting," he murmurs. I smile faintly. "You're welcome." For the first time since I met him, he laughs. It's quiet, surprised, almost disbelieving. And that sound feels more dangerous than any threat. Outside the library doors, the empire is shifting. The hero is watching. The heroine is questioning everything. But inside this room, the villain is no longer preparing for loss. He's considering the possibility of staying. And that changes everything. Chapter 7, in which I am asked to choose, and he refuses to let me. They summon me to the royal audience chamber. Not privately, publicly, which means this is no longer about concern. It's about possession. The court fills the marble hall in careful silence. Nobles line the walls like spectators awaiting spectacle. At the center stand crowned Prince Cassian Valmont and Lady Alara Windmere. United, waiting, and beside the far pillar, Lucien, still, composed, watching. I walk forward alone. Cassian speaks first. "Leonhart," he says, voice echoing across polished stone. "We are concerned." Concern again. How generous. Alara steps forward, softer but no less deliberate. "You've been isolating yourself. Spending time with someone who?" "Who?" I ask gently. She falters. Cashin does not. Who has a history of manipulation? He says coldly. You are being influenced. There it is again. As if I cannot think. As if I cannot want. The hall hums with quiet agreement. I glance toward Lucien. He hasn't moved. Hasn't defended himself. Because he expects this. Expects me to retreat under pressure. Cashin's voice lowers. You don't have to do this. Don't have to do what? Choose? Alara's expression trembles. If you're upset with us, we can fix this. Fix. As if I'm a broken ornament misplaced from its proper shelf. I feel something settle inside me. Calm. You're both very late, I say. The court shifts. Cashin's eyes narrow. Late? Yes. I turn slightly, ensuring my voice carries. For years, I stood exactly where you expected me to. Devoted. Predictable. Alara looks stricken. Cashin's jaw tightens. And now? He asks. I don't answer immediately. Instead, I step sideways. Closer. Toward the pillar. Toward him. The murmurs ripple instantly through the hall. Lucien's gaze sharpens as I approach. He looks almost annoyed. Almost resigned. As if bracing for the moment I stop halfway. I don't. I stop at his side. Close enough that our shoulders nearly align. The silence becomes suffocating. Cashin's voice drops dangerously low. Leonhardt. That tone. That command. Something in me rejects it outright. I am not confused. I say clearly. And I am not being controlled. Lucien finally speaks. You should reconsider, he says coolly. Association with me will cost you. The court watches him now. The villain admitting danger. Inviting distance. Testing me. I turn slightly toward him. Lower my voice just enough for only him to hear. Are you asking me to leave? His expression doesn't change, but his fingers curl faintly at his side. No. There it is. Barely audible, but real. Cashin takes a step forward. This is absurd. Alara's voice breaks. Leonhardt, please don't throw everything away for. For what? Ask. For him, Cashin snaps. The accusation lands like a gauntlet. Lucien inhales slowly beside me. And then, he moves. Not dramatically. Not violently. Simply deliberate. His hand comes to rest at the small of my back. Firm. Claiming. The entire hall freezes. You seem mistaken, Lucien says calmly, eyes fixed on the crown prince. He is not being led. His fingers press slightly, subtle, grounding. He came to me. A collective breath shatters across the chamber. Cashin's composure cracks openly now. You dare. I do, Lucien replies, voice even. If there is blame to assign it correctly. Alara looks at me. Not angry. Not even jealous. Just bewildered. When did this happen? She whispers. I meet her gaze. When I realized I didn't want to be second. The words echo. Not just for her. For him. Lucien's hand tightens almost imperceptibly at my back. Cashin's stare burns. You're making a mistake, he says. Maybe, but it's mine. Lucien leans slightly closer, voice low enough that only I can hear. You understand what this means. Yes. His thumb shifts faintly against my spine. Say it, he murmurs. A challenge. Not to the court. To me. I lift my chin. I choose him. The hall erupts. Whispers. Gasps. Outrage. But Lucien doesn't look at them. He looks at me. Not confused. Not guarded. Something far more dangerous. Certain. And when his hand slides more firmly against my back, anchoring me at his side, I realize the villain didn't just accept being chosen. He claimed me back. Chapter 8. In which the villain forgets restraint. The doors of the audience chamber close behind us with a heavy finality. The corridor beyond is empty. Silent. Too silent. I barely have time to breathe before Lucien turns. And suddenly, he's everywhere. One step and I'm against the cold stone wall. One hand braced beside my head. The other at my waist. Not rough. Not yet. But claiming space. Claiming me. You enjoy spectacle, he says quietly. His voice is controlled. His body is not. The tension in him feels almost volatile now, like something long contained finally cracking at the edges. You said nothing, I reply, though my pulse is racing. I said enough. He leans closer, not touching, hovering. The heat of him surrounds me, cutting off every exit. The Duke who once kept distance now crowds me like a man who has decided distance was a mistake. Do you understand? He murmurs. What you did in there? I chose. His jaw tightens. Yes. The word sounds strained, possessive. You forced my hand. I didn't see you resisting. That does it. His fingers slide from my waist to my hip, grip firm enough to anchor but not bruise. His forehead nearly touches mine. You stood before the entire court, he says, voice lower now darker, and declared yourself at my side. And you didn't correct me. A pause. His breath brushes my lips. I could still walk away, he says, but he doesn't move, doesn't loosen his hold, doesn't create space. You won't, I whisper. Silence stretches between us. Heavy, dangerous. His thumb presses slightly into my hip, a silent warning about how easily he could overpower the space between us. You are far too confident, he says. Only with you. His composure fractures then, not loudly, not visibly, but in the way his control slips just enough. His mouth brushes mine. Not the reckless clash from before. This is slower, deliberate, claiming. His hand slides from my hip to my lower back, pulling me flush against him. No room for doubt. No room for retreat. The world narrows to breath and heat, and the way his restraint feels like it's hanging by a thread. When he pulls back, his eyes are darker than I've ever seen them. You don't get to provoke me in public, he says softly, and expect me not to respond in private. I swallow, then respond. His jaw flexes again. Possessed isn't the right word. It's worse. He looks like a man who has finally allowed himself to want. You are mine now, he says. Not loud, not theatrical, just certain. The words should feel suffocating. Instead, they feel grounding. I lift my chin slightly, then act like it. For a split second, something almost feral flashes in his gaze. Not cruelty, hunger, but beneath it, fear. Of losing this, of losing me. He leans close to my ear, voice barely a breath. If you ever make me doubt your choice, he murmurs, I won't be this patient. Promise. A threat. A confession. And as his grip tightens just slightly at my back, holding me there like I belong, I realize the villain isn't surrounding me because he wants control. He's surrounding me because he's terrified I'll disappear. Chapter 9. In which he finally stops holding back. The rain starts without warning. Cold against the palace balconies. Silver against midnight stone. Lucien doesn't release me when the thunder rolls. If anything, his grip steadies. We've retreated to the western terrace, half sheltered by carved arches. The storm sealing the world away from prying eyes. You should go inside, he says quietly. But his hands remain at my waist. I don't want to. Lightning flashes. For a moment, I see him clearly. No mask, no courtly indifference. Just a man standing on the edge of something irreversible. You don't know what it means, he murmurs. To choose me. I do. You'll lose allies. I never had them. You'll lose comfort. I was never comfortable. His jaw tightens at that. Rain begins to soak through the shoulders of his coat. Damp silver strands cling to his temple. You're not second to anyone, I say softly. Not to the crown prince. Not to her. Not to fate. His eyes search mine like he's still waiting for the lie. Still waiting for the moment I falter. I'm not playing, I whisper. The confession hangs between us. Not teasing. Not provocative. Just real. For the first time since this began, I see something in him unravel completely. He steps forward slowly, hands sliding from my waist to my back, pulling me against him with a certainty that steals the air from my lungs. I have never, he says, voice rougher than I've heard it, been chosen first. The words aren't dramatic. They're quiet, and that makes them devastating. You are, I answer. A beat. Then his hand rises to cup my face. Not possessive. Not punishing. Careful. As if I might break. His thumb brushes along my cheekbone, catching a drop of rain. If you regret this, he says almost under his breath, I won't survive it gracefully. I'm not leaving. That's all it takes. He kisses me. Not like before. Not fierce. Not challenging. Slow. Intentional. His lips warm despite the cold rain, moving against mine with restrained hunger, like he's memorizing the shape of my mouth. My fingers curl into his coat. He deepens it gradually, one hand sliding to the nape of my neck, holding me steady as if the storm might tear me away. The world narrows to the sound of rain and the rhythm of our breathing. He kisses like someone who has waited too long, like someone who doesn't quite trust that this is real. When he finally pulls back, our foreheads rest together. His breath trembles slightly. You're soaked, he murmurs. So are you. A faint smile ghosts across his lips. The Duke of Darce. Smiling. Because of me. He presses one last, lingering kiss to my mouth. Softer now, almost reverent. And when he wraps his coat around my shoulders and draws me closer beneath the shelter of the archway, it doesn't feel like possession. Feels like belonging. The storm rages beyond us. The court will whisper. The hero will seethe. The heroine will question. But here, in the quiet between thunder, he chooses me back. Chapter 10. In which he crosses the threshold. I think the night is over. The storm has softened to a steady hush, rain tracing silver lines down the palace windows. My clothes are still faintly damp when I return to my chambers, heart strangely light. I close the door behind me, exhale, and then, a second click. The handle turns again, slowly. I don't need to look to know who it is. You didn't say goodnight, Lucien says. His voice is quieter here, lower, intimate in a way it wasn't beneath the storm. I turn. He stands just inside the doorway, coat removed, dark hair still slightly damp. Without the court between us, without marble halls and watching eyes, he looks less like a duke, and more like a man who made a decision. You followed me, I say. Yes. No excuse. No apology. He steps further into the room, shutting the door behind him with deliberate care. You shouldn't be here, I add softly. Probably not. The distance between us shrinks with each measured step he takes. Then why are you? He stops close enough that I feel his presence before he touches me. Because, he says, gaze steady. When I left you at the terrace, it felt unfinished. My pulse stutters. Unfinished. His hand lifts, hesitates for a fraction of a second, then brushes damp strands of hair away from my forehead. You kissed me like a promise, he murmurs. I intend to answer it properly. Heat rises beneath my skin. You already did. No, he says quietly. I restrained myself. The air thickens. His fingers trail from my temple to my jaw, slow enough to make every nerve hyper-aware. In the corridor, he continues, I held back. His thumb grazes the corner of my mouth. On the terrace, I held back. His eyes darken slightly, not wild, not feral. Controlled hunger. And now, ask, a pause. Then he steps closer until there is no space left between us. Now, he says softly, I don't want to. My back brushes the edge of the writing desk. He cages me in, not aggressively, but completely. One hand braces against the polished wood beside me. The other slides to my waist, steady and sure. You can still tell me to leave, he says. His voice is calm, but his grip tightens ever so slightly, betraying the tension underneath. I look up at him. I won't. That's all the permission he needs. He kisses me again. Not rushed, not reckless, deep. His hand at my waist draws me closer, anchoring me as if he's afraid the world might shift again if he loosens his hold. My fingers curl into his shirt, pulling him down just enough to feel the full weight of him. He exhales against my mouth, a sound halfway between restraint and surrender. The kiss grows slower instead of fiercer. Intentional. exploring. His thumb traces along my spine, sending a shiver through me. When he finally breaks away, our breathing is uneven. This, he says quietly, forehead resting against mine, is not a game. I know. His hand slides from my waist to lace with mine instead. Not possessive, not dominant, just intertwined. I have never followed anyone before, he admits. The confession feels more intimate than the kiss. You don't have to follow, I say softly. Just stay. He studies me as if memorizing the words. Then he presses a final, slow kiss to my lips, gentler now, almost protective. I will, he answers. And when he doesn't move away, when he simply remains there in the quiet of my room, hand still holding mine, feels less like the villain crossing a boundary, and more like the beginning of something neither of us plans to survive halfway. Special chapter, in which the villain walks into my world. The first thing Lucien says when he opens his eyes is, "This ceiling is ugly." I stare at him from the edge of my bed. My very modern, very earth-standard, very IKEA-adjacent bedroom. You cross dimensions, I say slowly. And that's your concern? He sits up, silver hair falling over his eyes, scanning the room like it's a mildly disappointing diplomatic visit. There are no chandeliers, he notes. We use electricity. He looks at the lamp. Suspicious. The memory hits me all at once. The storm, the library, the way he said stay. And then light. And then, him. Here. In sweatpants I do not own. You followed me, I whisper. Obviously. Like it's the simplest conclusion in the world. I lunge forward and grab his shoulders. Solid. Warm. Real. You're in my world. Yes. You can't just migrate across realities because you're attached. His gaze steadies on mine. I can. My bedroom door swings open. Aaron, why were you yelling at? Mira freezes. Her eyes move from me, to him, back to me. She blinks once, twice. Is that the villain? Lucien looks offended. I prefer Duke. She walks fully into the room, arms folding slowly. You complained about him for 3 weeks. You said he needed therapy. He does. I can hear you, Lucien says coolly. His hand slides from my waist to lace with mine instead. Not possessive, not dominant, just intertwined. I have never followed anyone before, he admits. The confession feels more intimate than the kiss. You don't have to follow, I say softly. Just stay. He studies me as if memorizing the words. Then he presses a final, slow kiss to my lips, gentler now, almost protective. I will, he answers. And when he doesn't move away, when he simply remains there in the quiet of my room, hand still holding mine, feels less like the villain crossing a boundary, and more like the beginning of something neither of us plans to survive halfway. Special chapter, in which the villain walks into my world. The first thing Lucien says when he opens his eyes is, "This ceiling is ugly." I stare at him from the edge of my bed. My very modern, very earth-standard, very IKEA-adjacent bedroom. You cross dimensions, I say slowly. And that's your concern? He sits up, silver hair falling over his eyes, scanning the room like it's a mildly disappointing diplomatic visit. There are no chandeliers, he notes. We use electricity. He looks at the lamp. Suspicious. The memory hits me all at once. The storm, the library, the way he said stay. And then light. And then, him. Here. In sweatpants I do not own. You followed me, I whisper. Obviously. Like it's the simplest conclusion in the world. I lunge forward and grab his shoulders. Solid. Warm. Real. You're in my world. Yes. You can't just migrate across realities because you're attached. His gaze steadies on mine. I can. My bedroom door swings open. Aaron, why were you yelling at? Mira freezes. Her eyes move from me, to him, back to me. She blinks once, twice. Is that the villain? Lucien looks offended. I prefer Duke. She walks fully into the room, arms folding slowly. You complained about him for 3 weeks. You said he needed therapy. He does. I can hear you, Lucian says coolly. Mira circles him like she's inspecting a suspicious antique. So, you're real. Yes. You crossed into reality for my brother. Yes. She looks at me. You are never going to shut up about this. She's right. I won't. Lucian stands from the bed, taking in the room again, the posters, the laptop, the stack of paperbacks including the very novel that started this mess. He picks it up, flips through it, sees his own name printed in ink. So this was my prison, he says quietly. Was I correct? He looks at me, something softer in his expression now. No court politics, no heroic rival, no destiny trying to shove him into tragedy. Just my messy room, my sister judging us, my world. You chose me, he says. I did. And here, Mira makes a gagging noise. Please do not start being emotional in front of me. Lucian ignores her completely. And here, he repeats, I step closer. In every world, that does something to him. Not dramatic, not explosive, but grounding. He exhales slowly, as if for the first time he isn't waiting for the floor to vanish beneath him. Mira points at him. You realize you have to get a job. Lucian stares at her. A what? Welcome to Earth, she says sweetly. I laugh. Actually laugh. No court tension. No rivals. No script. Just him. Standing in my room like he's always belonged there. Later that night, after Mira leaves muttering about fictional men gaining citizenship, Lucian sits beside me on the floor. He examines my phone like it's a suspicious artifact. This world is loud, he says. It is. He looks at me then. Not possessive, not guarded. Certain. But it's yours. And now, ask. He reaches for my hand, laces our fingers together. Now it's ours. No court to challenge us. No fate to rewrite. Just mornings with bad coffee. My sister's relentless teasing. And a former villain learning how to exist without expecting abandonment. He rests his forehead lightly against mine. I suppose, he says dryly, if I survived your flirting, I can survive this world. I grin. You followed me across realities. That's commitment. He gives me that faint, dangerous almost smile. You told me not to be second. I squeeze his hand. He never will be again. And honestly, being loved by the villain, in every universe, is far better than winning the hero. If you like this story, like the video, subscribe, BL without labels. For more stories, share with the friends who like to Hesser stories like you.